What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to be discussing the Detroit Lions roster cuts as they move down to their final roster. Let's get it started.
You know, I got to shout out DoseOfDion, man, because it was actually the first time I went live on YouTube. And, you know, guys don't know, DoseOfDion, he put out a lot of good content for the Detroit Lions.
Welcome, everybody, to another video. Glad you guys are here. And today, man, we are going to be discussing the Detroit Lions final roster cuts. And there's definitely some surprises that have happened so far that some people are not very happy about. So in today's video, I'm going to try to explain them and try to make sense of everything that did go on so far today. Now, as of now, when I am recording this, there are currently, I think, 10 more players that still need to be released. That will come out soon. We're kind of just waiting for the Detroit Lions to give us that information, but I have to leave soon. So I'm going to talk about this now, and I'll update you guys later on the rest of it. I may be walking, I may be somewhere else. I'm not sure where I'll be, but I do want to touch on a few of the surprises that have already happened. Before we get into it, as you guys see from the board, only 8 days until the Detroit Lions kick off, and only 5 days until the NFL season starts. Literally 5 days. That's it. One in. That's it. Just one. And then the NFL season starting. So definitely some awesome news there. Now let's talk about some of these moves that the Detroit Lions have made, some of the releases that they have made up to this point. So yesterday we had Jeremy Davis, our receiver, who was released last night. The receiver position as a whole didn't surprise me because I always thought the first 6 were locked up. Let me do it again. I know I always say it, but let me try. Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones, Danny Amendola, Marvin Hall, Quintez Cephas, Jamal Agnew. I destroyed it that time. But I think those players are already locked. I think you have your first 6 receivers locked, and I think that's all you keep. Last year you kept 5. I think you keep 6 this year. So I think those guys are locked up. We saw Chris Lacey released, Tom Kennedy released, or Bolden released, sorry. Couldn't remember the name. So those receivers were released. We got down to that, 6 wide receivers. Then we saw Bobby Price. Bobby Price, who was an undrafted free agent that Detroit Lions brought in this offseason. He was a player that played for Norfolk State. He was that really big guy that had a great RAS score, the relative athletic score. This really big guy, kind of reminded a lot of people of Isaiah Simmons. Didn't play against the most competition. We didn't really see a lot of him in college. Definitely a lot of the intangibles. Probably wasn't super polished. And then, of course, with the weird offseason, it makes it even more difficult to make a team. So he was Released. Who else do we have? Kevin Strong, probably the first surprise. Some people were really not happy about this. A lot of people like Kevin Strong. He was a defensive tackle. Then Virgin, one of our cornerbacks. And in yesterday's video, I talked about the 8 cornerbacks that the Lions had. Back 4, we'll call it the back 4, with guys like Michael Ford, Tony McRae, Virgin, and Darryl Roberts. One of those guys probably had to get cut because last season we only kept 7, and it was Virgin. He was a special team stud, but the Detroit Lions decided to keep those 7. We'll see if another one does get cut soon. Matt Sokol, the tight end, the former Michigan State tight end, he was released. And I think one of the biggest surprises, which we'll get to right now, is the other tight end. That's Isaac Nauta. Isaac Nauta was also waived. So currently the Lions only have 3 tight ends on this roster. And Hunter Bryant has been injured throughout pretty much the entire training camp. I mean, he has not been on the field. So you basically have 2 healthy tight ends, sort of healthy tight ends, I would say for the most part. And then you have an injured Hunter Bryant. Now, we don't know how serious anything is. He could be good to go. But we'll explain why I think that kind of makes sense. And we'll get into that in a second. But you guys know I'm a big Isaac Nauta fan. So I'll try to break that down in a second. Jonathan Williams, the running back, was also released. A guy that we brought in pretty recently. Anthony Pittman, the linebacker. Jason Huntley, who is probably the biggest shocker for everybody. David Blough, Albert Huggins, Stephen Wertel as Don Muhlbach wins the long snap position, Frank Heron, and Aaron Sipas. So Jack Fox won the punter position. Let's dive into this, man. Let's talk about the surprises so far. Jason Huntley, probably one of the biggest surprises. Now, I got to talk about this because practice squad is super, super important. It's super important this year. A lot of different rules. Very important. Something that you have to know. Now, a lot of you have asked, well, is he practice squad eligible? Is he not? Pretty much every single player is practice squad eligible. I mean, it's not like years past where there's all these guidelines. There still is those guidelines, but you can have 6 veterans on the practice squad. So pretty much everybody is practice squad eligible. Also, 4 players can be protected from other teams. Basically, you could put protection on 4 of your practice squad players where other teams can't go out and just claim them. Now, the difference about this year is that you can't just claim a player from another practice squad and put him on your practice squad. If you claim a player from a team's practice squad, he must go on your 53-man roster. So you have to probably move somebody to make room to put a practice squad player on your roster. So if you're going to get him, you can't just claim him and be like, hey, we're just going to have you for the week to get some intel. No, he has to be on your active roster. And like I said, the 4 protected players is huge. Because some of these release players that were like, oh, why did we release him? They could be protected from other teams, and they're basically on the team because you can bring up 2 players every week from the practice squad. You can bring up 2 players. That's why it's called 53/55, because you can bring up 2 players from the practice squad by week. which would allow you to have some of those protected players brought up for the week. Guys like Jason Huntley, possibly David Blough, those players that were released. Going to Isaac Nauta first, one of the most surprising one, Isaac Nauta, the tight end out of Georgia. He looked like he was going to make the roster, but the Lions released him. But they kept Hunter Bryant. Why would you do this if you have an injured Hunter Bryant? Well, think of it like this. IR is also different this offseason. It's not like normal where IR, you're on it for so many weeks. If you're placed on IR right after the 53-man roster cuts, you're only going to be there for 3 weeks. Only 3 weeks, then you can come back and play. So if Hunter Bryant's not too serious to the point where he's going to miss more than 3 weeks, the Lions could potentially take Hunter Bryant, put him on IR, which again opens another spot, so they'd have 2 active tight ends, and have Isaac Nauta on the practice squad, if he clears waivers and everything like that, put him on the practice squad, and then protect him. Now all of a sudden, you can bring him up for a couple of weeks until Hunter Bryant gets back, or however you want to mess with that. But now you're good to go. Kind of the same thing with Jason Huntley. A running back, I really liked him. I thought he could be like the next J.D. McKissick, have a big role. But just because he was released doesn't mean he can't. He's another guy that I think I would protect. My 3 guys right now that I would protect are Jason Huntley, Isaac Nauta, and David Blough. David Blough, the third-string quarterback. It makes sense not to necessarily keep him because why keep 3 and take away a spot from someone else? But when you can also protect him to the point where no one else can come claim him from your practice squad, and you can move him up if you have to, that just makes sense. So those are the 3 guys I would protect out of the guys that we just went through. Obviously, there's some more cuts that have to be made, and we'll see. But the Lions can protect 4 players. So those are the 3 guys as of now that I think the Lions will protect. So just because a player's released doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to have an impact or it was a terrible pick. Don't think like that. Just understand they can be protected. And even the players that aren't protected could still potentially serve a role in the team. You just have to be cautious that another team could go bring them onto their active roster. But it's not going to be as, I would say, active this season because when you bring in a practice squad player, you have to put him on your roster. You can't just throw him on your practice squad. So there's a lot that goes into it. But I think right now what the Lions are doing, on surface, it looks kind of concerning. It's like, why do we do all this? But I think when you take a step back, you can kind of understand, okay, it kind of does make sense. So that's the first part of this. I'll keep you guys updated. I'll be back when the Lions make the rest of their cuts. But for now, that's just kind of how I'm looking at things. I'll see you guys in a little bit. I'm out. So what is up, everybody? Welcome in, I guess you could say, to part 2 of this video. I don't know if you guys saw the first part or not. I think you saw the first part first because I think it makes a lot more sense. And now we're hopping back in. As you guys can see, I'm a little bit late to the party because I was at a party. See what I did there? I was at a birthday party, but I'm a little bit late to this because of that. And I kind of want to just hop into this part and just kind of react to the full 53-man roster. I really haven't taken much of a look at it because I wasn't here. But now that I'm back, I thought, hey, you know what? Let's just take a look at it. So the first one is, my almost initial reactions to some of those and just kind of my thoughts. And those are really where the surprise cuts seem to come from. I really don't think there's many surprise cuts since then. So we're just going to run through this, man, get some quick little takeaways on the 53-man roster, what it looks like, and maybe just things that stick out to us. So hopefully that first part makes sense on what I'm saying. It's just kind of my thought and trying to basically explain what maybe the Detroit Lions were doing there. So we're just going to run right through this, man. Let's start off with the quarterback, Matthew Stafford, Chase Daniel. Of course, they're in. David Blough out. Like I said in the first part, the first clip you saw, I kind of explained what the Lions could do with that. Now, will they go after another quarterback instead? I don't know. If the Detroit Lions don't put Chase Daniel back on the practice squad and try to protect him, then I could definitely see them looking for another quarterback. But I thought they liked David Blough. I think I should Chase Daniel. I thought they liked David Blough. I like David Blough as a player. So I'd like to try to keep him around, try to protect him from other teams for the future because I think he could be, but I also think it does make sense not to put him on the active roster because it takes up a roster spot. On the receiver position, the Lions kept 6, and it was the 6 that I've probably been saying for about a couple weeks now. I mean, these don't surprise me at all. Not one name on here surprised me. Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones, Danny Amendola, Marvin Hall, Quintez Cephas, Jamal Agnew. Those 6 to me are just... They were there, and you could just see it in training camp with Jamal Agnew. Such an easy transition, and Quintez Cephas was so great. It was like... These are the 6. I mean, they're going to find a way to keep 6. Agnew's making the team. I mean, it just got to a point where I'm like, Agnew's making the team. And last year they only kept 5, but they were playing so well. They're going to keep 6. They're going to find a way. So unfortunately for Chris Lacey, Kennedy, Bolden, they're just in a really tough spot with these receivers. But I think they could end up elsewhere and serve an impact or possibly back on the practice squad with us. At the tight end position, T.J. Hockenson, Jesse James, Hunter Bryant. Again, I explained that kind of in the first part. Isaac Nauta, Matt Sokol. So, I kind of try to break down why I think that is what it is and what they could be doing with that one. So I think it does make a little sense. But Hunter Bryant is actually the only undrafted free agent to make the team, I believe. So that's pretty impressive for Hunter Bryant. So he must have showed them a lot because him dealing with those injuries like that, he must have showed them a lot on the field. Running back, Kerryon Swift, Ty Bo, and Jason Cabot. So Jason Cabot is the fullback. Goes from linebacker to offense, and boom. All of a sudden, he's our starting fullback as Nick Bawden is placed on IR. So that's really cool for him. They found a way to keep both Ty and Bo. That's awesome. Okay, that is awesome. These two guys stepped up big last year when injuries struck to guys like Kerryon and Trey Carson, and injuries just kept kind of piling on. Bo Scarborough stepped up to the task. You know, we saw glimpses from Ty Johnson. They both averaged the same yards per carry. They played pretty well. 4.1 yards per carry is not something to mess with. I mean, that's solid. That's not bad. Out Jason Huntley, Wes Hills, and Jonathan Williams. Wes Hills, Jonathan Williams, not too surprised there. Thought Williams maybe had a shot. And Jason Huntley, I kind of explained that one already. But, you know, it's cool to see all these fives still here. It's cool. And I think a guy like Huntley could be a guy Lions maybe move up and down depending on their opponent. Maybe give some time. Because I think what's tough about this is that it's not like a regular offseason where the Lions are looking at it and saying, you know what, he's ready to go. A lot of these guys I just don't think are ready to go. I think a lot of it probably has to do with the scheme, trying to get comfortable and, you know, really know what's going on. And it was such a short offseason, it's like, okay, this guy just might not be ready yet. He's still got the talent. We want to keep him around. We want to protect him on the practice squad. He just isn't ready yet. So he's just going to take a little bit more time. And I think that's what you see with a lot of rookies, undrafted players, things like that. Maybe guys that you didn't expect to get cut. Definitely with Jason Huntley as well. Offensive line, Taylor Decker, Joe Dahl, Frank Ragnow, Jonah Jackson, and Big V. Those are probably your starters. Then off the bench, you have Terrell Crosby, tackle, Logan Stenberg, and Matt Nelson. The Lions were pretty light here. Only 3 reserves on the offensive line. Obviously, if they need to bring someone up, they can. But I think what really speaks volumes here is Logan Stenberg. Logan Stenberg had opportunities to, they said, cross-train, where he could basically play center and guard. And he must have done well enough at center because he's here as really their lone backup guard. I mean, that's it. And he's going to have to do both if something happens. So, really, it's really good look here for Logan Stenberg. I will say that. Terrell Crosby can kind of move around and do everything, kind of. Big V can as well. So, I mean, if you're really in a pinch, you can almost put Big V at guard and then put a guy like Crosby at tackle. So, that's what Big V really does add. Even though he looks like the tackle, if something were to happen, you could put him at guard and move Terrell Crosby to tackle and then, you know, kind of just move things around. And Matt Nelson, wasn't really expecting that one. So, they went light here to open up other positions. Oday Abushi, Kenny Wiggins, Bo Benshaw. Those 3 are kind of surprising. I didn't think Wiggins would be cut. Bo Benshaw is kind of on the fence. I did think O'Day would be gone, but Wiggins kind of surprised me. Bo Benshaw, but again, that speaks volumes to Logan Stenberg, and Dan Skipper waived because of an injury, unfortunately. Defensive line. Lions, honestly, they went, I wouldn't say they went heavy, but this isn't bad for basically only having 3 defensive line on the field most of the time. They are including Julian Okoro, which I think I would put in linebackers, but it's okay. Trey Flowers, Danny Shelton, Nick Williams. I think your starters are Trey Flowers, Danny Shelton, Deshaun Hand. And Nick Williams, you know, he can kind of play everywhere. Romeo Okoro plays on the outside. John Pennicini's your nose tackle. So you got really everything here, right? You lose a guy on the inside, you can put Pennicini in. And this is great for Pennicini because the rookie, later round pick, this is really cool for John Pennicini to make the team. I mean, I got to give him credit. He had a lot of competition. Kevin Strong, Frank Carron, Will Clark, Olive Sagapolu, Albert Huggins, Kevin Wilkins. The Lions continue to put competition out there and just continue to push him and say, hey, crack so we can put someone else in. Crack so we can give someone else a job. And apparently he didn't. And I think a lot of that had to do with his mindset, being a very positive player and probably just someone that coaches want to be around, to be honest with you. So that's awesome for John Pennicini. You can see Austin Bryant still on the pup list. Hopefully he can get healthy soon. Linebacker, Jamie Collins, Jared Davis, Christian Jones, Eli Tavai, Reggie Regal, Miles Killebrew, and Jalen Raven, and Elijah Lee. Only guy out is Anthony Pittman. The Lions went heavy at linebacker. And let's be honest, guys. It's probably expected. It's Matt Patricia. I mean, he's going to go heavy on linebackers. He's a linebacker dude. But Miles Killebrew, as we got closer to the cuts, I was kind of thinking, yeah, Miles is probably going to make the team. I just have a feeling. Jalen Raven and Elijah Lee. That one kind of surprised me. I didn't think both would make him. I wasn't sure both would make it, and they did. And really good job for Elijah Lee here. He didn't get paid a lot. He's on a very cheap deal. I think his deal is less than $1 million for the year, which I know to us that's a lot of money still. But I mean, to me it is. I'll take that any day. But according to the NFL, like that's not that much. So Elijah Lee to make the final 53-man roster is impressive. That is very impressive. And we know he can give us on special teams. Maybe he can give us something in against the pass too at the linebacker position. In secondary, they went kind of heavy here a little bit. They kept 7 cornerbacks like they did last year. True Flat, Okuda, Coleman, Amani, Daryl Roberts, Tony McRae, Mike Ford. The guy out is D Virgin. Once they cut D Virgin, it was kind of like, all right, they might be set here. And then safety, they have Walker, Harmon, Will Harris, CJ Moore. CJ Moore had to make it. When your special teams coach talks about you like that, you're going to make the team. Now, Jaron Curse is still on IR. Now on IR. Jaron Curse is suspended for the first 3 weeks. So when he gets back, someone's going to have to move so we can get his spot back. But as of now, that's what it's looking like. Fortunately for Bobby Price, Elliott, who looked like he was probably going to make the team, but he didn't. And then special list, you have Matt Prater, Jack Fox, Don Muehlbach, Sipas, and Wertel are beat out. So, yeah, I think the only UDFA to make it was Hunter Bryant. So he must have showed a lot because the Lions brought him in pretty quick when he became available. He was talented. It's just pass blocking, and it's really pass blocking and just the injury history that kind of plagued him. Bad combine as well. But he has a lot of talent. I mean, he can line up as a receiver, so you can move him around a ton. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say there was any crazy surprises. I mean, I think the first clip kind of sums up all the surprises. So what do you guys think? I think where the Lions stacked their positions, wide receiver, where the most talent is, so obviously. Linebacker, he's the linebacker guy, and secondary. I think that just makes sense for the Lions scheme defensively, and offensively, you had to keep all these receivers. There's just too much talent to let one of those 6 go. They had to find a way to make them fit. So hopefully that made sense when I try to explain, just trying to make sense of everything that's going on. And honestly, I like this team. This is a very talented team. Guys, this is a roster you should be excited about. There is talent everywhere. These are great players. You got great players getting released. That kind of shows you where you're at as a team. Let me know your thoughts, comments below, guys. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.